Well, howdy, it's 1:36 p.m. on Tuesday, May 12th, and I'm in my office at Indian Lake Estates. Another sunny day, probably get up at least to 85. So some of you read the story on the blog of my discovery of the new crane nest. We'll get to that in a second, but the morning started out foggy and still, so I went in the garden and I photographed this firebush, two little blossoms here. And I like it. I kick myself for not pointing the lens down some more and get another ½ inch of this leaf, moving this up, and maybe a little more depth of field. I focused here. Maybe should have focused here and gone to f8. We're looking at a large view. Whoa, that was bad. We're looking at a large view so we can see the EXIF. You can learn a little bit more as I'm yakking. Then I went down to the lake and I mentioned there are these huge hatches of mayfly. So I grabbed the 24-105 Sony, and you can only do this kind of stuff on a cloudy day, because on a sunny day your shadow is going to be in the middle of everything if you point your shadow out. I tried some backlit stuff on the pier with big piles. They all were not good. So this is 24 millimeters, 1/125th f8, a little extra depth of field, and a nice histogram. And then I had written in the blog last week that I saw a crane. This is actually the crane that was in a blog post a while back, standing in grass. Beautiful section of marsh. I wrote that the eggs were probably infertile because it seemed she had been standing there for a long time, a good couple of 5, 6, 7 weeks, and that I'd rarely seen a mate around. So both of those would say it's probably not a viable nest. Anyway, to my shock, I saw a little tiny chick. So I had the 24-105 still. I went over and using tracking flexible spot medium, I put it on the adult's face and made an image. And then the beautiful part with the tracking is that you just put it on the bird's face and then you just recompose and it'll stay right on the adult's eye. Then I went back to the car and grabbed the 600 because it was a cloudy day. So here I am working at f4, and I love this one. And since this is the 7-off-4, yup, 61 megapixels, I can do a nice crop on this from here. Keep it proportional. And you notice the next thing, this is the one bad part. Your eye tends to go to light toned areas or elements. So here, this will be easy to get rid of. I forgot to close email, sorry. And here, that light stalk intersects. And I'm aware of it when I'm shooting. Could I have tried to move to the left? I tried to stay very still, although the birds were amazingly accepting. Then I added the teleconverter, got a little bit brighter. Tracking AF, I love this one. You could see the little wing stubs. And an even better view here of the wing stubs. But here the head is angled slightly towards us. I love that. I'm not going to throw this one away, and that's the back of the adult's neck. Then the chicks went to brooding in the feathers. So they're just hanging out. So might as well take a picture. Probably tone this down if I do this one. And then again, the tracking AF with Sony is amazing. You just put it on the eye and recompose however you want. Take some practice. We'll see that in a minute. Now here's that same stalk in the way. And in Capture One, all of these are sharp. Can't blow them up here in Photomechanic. Then a little different view. I like this one. And then one of the things I learned a good many years ago, we'll see that at the end, is that the adults will feed little chips of the eggshell to the newborn chicks for the first day, usually day or two at most. So I did this one at f10 at 840 to try to get as much of the eggshell sharp as possible. And it's a very hard nest to shoot because it's in the grass. So that first day it was a blessing. that it was cloudy bright, just a big old beautiful soft box. Here I'm even able to stop down, move the tripod a little bit to get this right out of here, from here to here. So I moved to my right, just a smidgen, moving very slowly to get a clean shot. Then they're hanging around Mama. This head angle, I wish she would turn back. Notice that I don't try to go for depth of field. This is 7.1. If I went to f16, I'd need to be at ISO. Actually, this is with the 100 to 400. Sorry, 212. Yeah, I went back in the afternoon, put that on my shoulder so I'd have an opportunity. But still, you can't get enough depth of field to cover that 1.5, 2 feet from the eye back to that little chick, so why bother? Then with the big lens right between Mama's legs for a second, just got the toe in, love it. Again, the bright ones, it can be toned down a bit, it's still pretty cool. And these are all, geez, I forgot the whole story. When I first saw the nest, I went over and I photographed for about an hour. Just the one chick on the mom's back and walking around and brooding. And then after an hour, the mother stood up and there was a brand new chick. It probably hatched while I was standing there photographing her. She'll stay on the egg while it's hatching. And here was this sopping little chick, not this one, the nestmate. This guy immediately ran over and started pecking at his new nestmate. Drove it out of the nest, actually into the reeds. But that's they're genetically programmed to do that. They're not mean. Their brain is telling them that if they can kill this other one, they'll get more food and have a good chance to survive. I never did get anything good on the tiny one the first day. Then this is with the 100 to 400, shooting straight down, a little more magnification. And it's not an accident that this mayfly with the thorax showing golden is in the rule of third spot. And again, a little depth of one stop down. And with the Sony 100 to 400, the Canon 100 to 400, you can point the lens straight down. Then in the late afternoon, I went back and they were on the edge of the lake. Then they went into the water to start to head back to the nest. Look, every exposure perfect. Sony, red tones right up to the edge. Shadow of some lily pads, little drop of water, little nice head turn, and then swimming. And one of the big things that I'm still working on with tracking flexible spot, in addition to getting the spot on the bird's eye or face, you need to point the lens down so you're not cutting off reflections and feet. I'm still doing that constantly with large in the frame subjects, even though I'm practicing and getting better. Of course, you have a tiny little chick swimming towards you, you get nervous. I love that we can see the feet here. In the processing, this will probably go. This will get cleaned up and the rest is good to go. I like this little water stuff here, these crazy reflections. This one would have been nicer without the leaf. Again, 840. Actually, this is when I went back in the middle of the day. And then the raised foot, even nicer. Here again, I could have pointed the camera a little bit left and had less room behind the bird and more room in front. Now we cover tracking flexible spot extensively in the Sony guide, but as you can see here, I'm still learning. And then, oh man, look at how beautiful that little thing is. Now people would say, yes, this would be much better if you got lower, only if I got lower here, first of all, I was at 840 with the big lens. It takes 5 minutes to get low. But you see that there's grasses right on the bottom of the frame. So I just got over that and photographed the little chick. And this will be a crop probably from here to get rid of this. And probably lighten this up. More of the same. Again, I could have pointed the lens down a fraction more. And then the raised foot. But again, with the 7-4, a crop from here is no problem because these are all sharp. And this is from 3 of my favorite frames. I don't know, I could get rid of the grass growing out of the head, but I'll probably just crop it out, leave the breast, but get rid of the bill. But how cute is that with those wing buds dropping down? Looking a little tired, stopping to ruffle. Here I'll clean this up, and you can see I'm still dealing with these foreground grasses. And then tuck it out completely and on the ground. This will get some cleanup work here. Yeah, it would have been nice if Mother was square to the back, but it's still pretty cool with the baby looking for some chow. And here again, I could have pointed the camera down a little bit more, but I can do a nice tight crop with a sharp 7/4 image. Here I did a better job with the tracking. There I did a perfect job, although I could have pointed the camera to the right to move the bird back in the frame just a bit. Then let's see, it's still middle of the day with the 100 to 400, and I don't like the adult's head against this little mud bar, and I was praying, and the head is slightly turned away. I was praying that it would put its head down against this water, a little bit there, but boy, that's the best pose with the raised foot. And there's the foot again. This one will be a nice crop, and still with the 7/4. And this was Patrick's favorite. This will be a nice crop from here. Yeah, maybe just a fraction on the inside here. Get rid of this. It's still 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and I think I'm going to go head home and go for a swim. Now it's late afternoon, and she's on. The 2 chicks are brooding under her. So I go to the 600, but I just wanted to give you an idea of the nest of all the grasses around. So it's difficult to shoot them when they're by the nest at all. And this is actually with the 100 to 400 at 400 millimeters, getting a little bit low, completely accepting of my presence, moving slowly. I don't know why. A lot of times when the chicks are a week to 10 days old and the parents see you, they run into the marsh and hide. I really like this one. I don't mind the adult's bill. Tone this down a little bit. I did spend a good deal of time today in their favorite hangout area cleaning up about 20 pounds of plastic sheeting buried in the sand. Here I'll just be opening up the dark part of the face. It's a good head angle, but there's just no light. Pretty cool. And then Mama picks her head up. So we do a slightly different image design. Notice every exposure perfect with Sony, just by changing the ISO, going for some blinkies there. We're right about on the face, some zebras, excuse me. 6 o'clock, I'm about ready to head home. And one last parting shot. So we're going to take a second now, go back to the beginning, almost the beginning. I realize now, this is from 2007, the last nest I had, and this was a pretty good nest. The grass was much lower, and this was also on the first morning, and this was with the 600 Canon and the 1.4. I realized these chicks were just born that night, a day old, and then, oh my Lord, give me a break, and just too cute. And I think there's one, yeah, here's the adult feeding a little chip of eggshell. So you couldn't do this with this year's nest because there's just too much grass around the nest. And then you certainly couldn't do this. This is from 2006. This is one of the ones in the top 100. It's been in all my exhibits. These guys are maybe 2 days old, and this was out in the marsh at the other end. So I hope you have personally enjoyed my commentary on freedom of speech and some of the issues with the pandemic and the plandemic video. I wrote more about it today. A couple of more haters showed up today, but for the most part, the discussion's been civil and a lot of bright people showing up. So I thank you for taking the time to view this, and hopefully we'll get to see you on an IPT when things get a little bit back to normal. Love you much. Cheers.